just for you and me. The dogwood was never to grow strong and tall again. Hello, my name's Lonnie Jones. I'm telling my story. Lonnie Jones, my story and what God's done for me. And hope you enjoyed all the episodes so far. We up through, I believe, this is episode 10, I believe, that we're doing for you right now. And I hope you'll enjoy some of the stuff that I tell you and sort of some of the things I did when I was a young man, 18 years old, trying to get out here in this old world and try to make a living and so forth. And I want to tell you about Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. That's where we go to church on Sunday. Myself and Rita, we go up there on Sundays, and our pastor's Mr. Nelson Garrett. He does a great job. We'd like for you guys to tune in if you can't come to the church. It's at 101 Flat Ridge Road, Goodlettsville, Tennessee. If you could come on Sunday, we start at 11 o'clock to 12, and we'd love to have you. And if you can't come, pull us up on Facebook, because we're on Facebook. So we'd love for you to hear Mr. Nelson Garrett tell it like it is. He speaks from the Bible. He speaks from the truth right here. What's in here's got the answers. And we enjoy being with him every Sunday. And if you hit like us on Facebook, would be great. And Larry's Grand Old Garage, and subscribe on YouTube for my life story. So if you could do that, subscribe on YouTube and like on Facebook. That would be awesome. On Lonnie Jones's life story and what God's done for me. And I appreciate everybody taking interest in watching and let me tell you all the things, or at least many of the things that I can remember off the top of my head. There's thousands of things that I have to leave out because I can't remember everything. And we have to jump around a little from time to time. But that's okay. You'll get the gist of things. If you miss something in episode 10, go back and you'll find something about it in episode 9 probably. Or some of you may need to go all the way back to number 1. But right now, I left off on number 9. I was in Maryland. And Maryland is, as you all know, is very close to Washington, D.C. And Baltimore is, of course, Maryland. Baltimore's in Maryland. And we had left Virginia, and we had done a show in Maryland. And we was leaving Maryland and was going through Baltimore. 5 o'clock one morning, it's just breaking day. We was going through Baltimore, Maryland, heading to New York to do another show on the Carnival. It's not like doing a musical show or what have you. It's a show, okay, but it's a carnival show. It's a place where you, of course, got all kinds of rides and you got all kinds of games. The games will take your money. The rides, if you don't take your money out of your pocket, you'll spill out on the Ferris wheel. So a carnival will get you money one way or the other. And you're looking at an experienced man, because I was on the Carnival in 1960 for one summer. And I'll tell you up front right now, in number 10, one summer was enough. Because, as you all know, I've done told you that I was an old farm boy, didn't know all this lying and cheating was all about. And I got out here in the real world on this Carnival, and boy, did I learn a lesson. But we went on through Baltimore, and I'll never forget it. It's about the dingiest looking place I've ever been to in my life. 5 o'clock in the morning, the sun just coming up. It ain't a soul nowhere to be seen. And this is in 1960 now, I remember. And we were on our way to New York. And I have no idea where in New York exactly we went. I know we went up state New York. When they say upstate New York, that could be 300 miles north of New York City. So I don't know and remember what all the towns we were in New York, the state of New York, but we were in a lot of them. I know one of the big things that I remember, two things I remember learning in New York real well. Number one was it's colder than Dickens up in New York, upstate New York, in July. And that's when we was up there. We were up there in July. And so it's cold up there in the summertime. And that's the first place I ever saw an airplane without a motor. And they're called gliders. We get setting up and everything, and I look up, and here's this airplane way, way up in the sky, and you don't hear nothing. And I look at it, it's not got no motors on it. Well, I don't know anything about airplanes without motors, so I asked one of the guys been there before, if you know what I mean, and what that was, and he said it was a glider airplane. They carried it up with a rope with another airplane way up, and they could step and glide just in the air for hours. Those things, they know how to keep them up for hours without a motor on them, and using the wind and so forth. So that's where I got acquainted basically with glider airplanes without motors, was New York. First one I ever saw in New York. Not a whole lot can I tell you or remember about New York. I'll be honest with you. Everything, as far as I know, went pretty smooth in New York, excepting I got cold at nights and sleeping in the, remember my motel room's in the back of one of the tents. Whatever tent I'm putting up and I'm running, I'm sleeping in it. Plus, I am still taking care of 5, 6, 7, 8 other tents or joints, keeping the stuff clean, opening them up every day, closing them up every night, making sure everything's put up correctly, which I'm supposed to be getting paid good money for, which you'll have to find out back on about number 6, or 7, when I was joining the Carnival, and I was going to make all this money. Well, I wasn't making all this money. I was hung out to dry. I was no country boy a long ways from home, and no way to get back home, but to stay with the Carnival. So we played a lot of gigs up in New York. We headed back, come back the same way we went, just about it. We would just hit different locations on the way back. Well, we got back into Maryland again. We come back into Maryland. Well, we're going to play in Washington, D.C. And everybody knows Washington, D.C. is not a state. It's a government ran. D.C. stands for District of Columbia, I believe. District of Columbia is what D.C. stands for. And that's all government. Everything there is government, ran by the government. And right across a big 4-lane or about 6-lane highway is Maryland and Virginia. Well, we was back in Maryland, and we were going to play a show over in Washington, D.C. And 1960, I believe I'm right, is when Cassius Clay won the boxing championship. And I believe I was in Washington, D.C. when that fight took place, and I don't remember who he fought. I wasn't into boxing. I hardly knew who he was, but when you get into Washington, D.C., trust me, everybody in Washington, D.C. knows who Cassius Clay was, or Muhammad Ali, as it turned out to be. They all knew who he was. Well, we set up for a 2-week stay in Washington, D.C. during the time that Cassius Clay went for the championship, and he won it. The best I remember, he won it, and I believe that was in 1960. That can be checked, fact-checked, or whatever. If I'm off 6 months, so be it. I'm pulling this stuff out as the best I can remember it. So we're in Washington, D.C., and I'm not only working my own joint. When I'm not working my own joint, I'm helping other people work their joints. Well, let me tell you about this other crooked joint. There's a joint that's called the Three Tubs, I believe, or the Clown's Faces. It could be called either one, and I'm not too sure which, but here's the deal. There's a board about 12 inches square. It's got clown's faces painted on this board, and it's about 10 to 12 foot away from where you pitch the softball. Well, there's a number 2 wash tub underneath these clowns' faces that catches the balls when they hit the clown's face. They hit the clown's face and fall down in the tub, and the guy will go over and gather his balls up, put them back in his little bag that he carries around with him, where he can hand you another one every time you need one. Well, there's 3 tubs in there, and there's three people playing it. Well, there is a curtain that comes down just behind the clowns' faces, and in the center of that curtain is a 2-way mirror. You can see out, but they can't see in. I'm sitting up on a platform in the back with 3 ropes in my hand. 3 ropes in my hand. And I'm looking through this mirror at the marks. Remember what a mark is? In episode number 9, I told you what a mark was. Well, these marks are out there, and they're pitching this softball at these clowns' face, and when it hits the clown's face, it drops down in the tub. 3 in the tub, and you win any prize up there. And I'm sitting back behind that 2-way mirror, watching them. They can't see me. And we're going to use people as the marks as for instance. So there's a mark pitch 3 softballs in this clown's face. And that's not 10 foot away. It's not hard to do. So he pitches softball, bang, falls down in the tub. He pitches softball, bang, he falls down in the tub. The guy running the joint says, 1 more in and you win any big prize you want in here. Well, I'll pull a string. When I pull that string, that ball hits that clown's face, it comes plumb back out nearly to where he pitched it from. Spring loaded. It's dead and spring loaded. Dead and spring loaded. That face has got a spring behind it. When it's dead, that softball just hit it just dead and falls straight down. When you pull that string, a spring comes out against that wood, and it hits that wood, and that wood hits that spring throws that ball right back out, almost at their feet. And I'm sitting back here on this platform, and this guy's playing over. You got to be careful that all 3 of them get to playing at once. Then you get really busy. You got to pay attention to what's going on, because you don't want that, and you don't always let the 3rd one come out. You never get a pattern. You never let there be a pattern. If 1 more win and you win every time, and that 3rd one come out every time, somebody's going to catch on. So sometimes he'll give you a sign that you pull the string on the 1st one. The 1st one comes out, well, he's already done. That don't happen often because they want to throw a couple of balls. So I'll make the 2nd one come out, not the last one. But you just juggle it. You never have a pattern that anybody can notice about when you pitch that ball. But that was another illegal joint that had rods and springs in it that they built in North Carolina. That when you hit that clown's face and I pull that string, it was not going to go in the tub. And remember now, Washington, D.C. is 70% black. Minimum of 70%. And that's nothing against blacks, that's just the way it is. That's who lives there. And that's the people that we were dealing with. And as you well know, anybody gets cheated out of their money is going to get mad. Sooner or later, somebody's going to get mad. Well, we made it. That was one of the places that I got the tonsillitis and thought I was going to actually die. They come and got me and actually carried me to a doctor. They actually carried me to a doctor, gave me some medicine, and I got over it. But it took me a week to get over it. But we're going to go on with this story here. And we stayed there. We were able to stay there 2 weeks. Didn't have a whole lot of trouble because we didn't really make a lot of money there because we knew, or I didn't know, well, I learned to know that anybody, I don't care whether they're white or black or otherwise, if they gonna lose all their money they made a whole week, they gonna be a fit throat. So they, in particular Washington D.C., they would never ever go over 60% of the money. They would never take them for over 60% of their money because it was a hostile environment. Not really, but it could have been. All you had to do was light one match and the place would come apart. And that was well known. And this is 1960, ladies and gentlemen. 1960. So we were real gentle in how they took their money there, how much they took and everything. So we got through the 2 weeks there. Cassius Clay, during the time we were there, won the boxing championship, I think. So we was getting out of there. We was moving out of there. We had everything packed up. 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm pulled over now. I'm pulling the boss's trailer, remember? That was my main job, was to make sure to pull their trailer, park it, and have it where it needed to be when it needed to be. So I had pulled it out of the fairgrounds, had pulled over to the side of the road, and it was like July, still July, hot. Boy, it was hot in Washington, D.C. Had the windows down. We didn't have no power windows back then anyway, but the windows down, and it was hot. And up to the left about a block, I could see some people coming down the sidewalk, and they were knocking windows out and shooting windows out with a gun. Well, still me, I'm still from the country. I hadn't totally caught on to nothing yet. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced of everything around me is happening. I'm in a fantasy world out here that I wish I was out of. But anyway, so I quit paying any attention to that and was watching for them to come out to get in front of me to lead me out there, because let me tell you, I'm gonna have to tell you another one before we totally leave Washington D.C. anyway. But I'm gonna have to back up and tell you this one. But right now, let's just get out of Washington D.C. Okay? We're gonna get out of Washington D.C. So I'm waiting on the boss to come out and get in front of me to leave. I'm sitting there with the windows down, and I feel something right against my temple. And I look around, and there's a black man standing there with a rifle stuck to my temple. He said, "Boy, are you with that carnival?" I said, "No, sir." I said, "No, sir," just like I really wasn't with it. He said, "Boy, if I knew you was, I'd blow your head off." Well, I said, "I'm sorry. I'm glad I'm not. And I want you to know they went on, and we got out of Washington D.C. with our about the hair of our chinny chin chin. We got out of Washington D.C. I want to back up. Before we ever got to New York, we had to go through Washington. We had to go through by the Potomac River. We had to go through the tunnel in Baltimore. Baltimore Tunnel. Well, the Potomac River has got a bridge over it. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you could see the White House, the Capitol, from where almost I was sitting. We had to go under this bridge. Well, guess what? The bridge wasn't tall enough. It lacked about 2 inches being tall enough. I got under that bridge, went under it real careful. And of course, as soon as it scraped, I stopped. And we're in rush hour traffic. Can you imagine sitting up beside the Potomac River underneath a bridge? Not the tunnel, but a bridge. And you can't get under it. And all this traffic in 5:30 in the afternoon. It's about to get dark. So what they did, the police came, and what they did, they let the air out of the tires on the trailer. and it got under by about an inch. We got over on the other side, now the truck with the air tank, the tires back up. Now that was going up. Coming back, we didn't go under that tunnel, or under that bridge. But I had to back up and tell you about my experience at the Potomac River going under a bridge, almost right real close to Washington, D.C., the capital of the United States. And, of course, I'd never been there before and all this stuff. But it's quite amazing. Nobody ever got excited over it. It was just a thing. It happened. And the police come and let the air out of the tire and got us under there and got us on our way. But then we went up to New York and came back and got into Washington, D.C. Now we've left Washington, D.C. and we are headed back into, at this point, we are going back into Maryland. Actually, we're going back into Virginia. We were in Maryland. We're going back into Virginia to do a show in Virginia. Well, we're going to do a show in Virginia. Well, that little girl, two girls that kept up with this thing the whole way, how, I don't know. But here we go back into Virginia. They're the first ones I see. Here they come right up to me. And we'd been gone all this time. Here they were back again. And they lived on one side of this interstate, 6-lane interstate. And we had to park the boss's trailer in a trailer park on the other side of the 6-lane highway. 6-lane highway going out of Virginia into Washington, D.C., Maryland. It all runs together. Here I am, been out with girls all day long, and they let me out not knowing what I was getting into on the wrong side of the road. Let me out on the side that we had the trailer on, that they were parking the trailer on. Well, I had to get to the other side of that 6-lane. Now let me explain the 6-lane to you. 6 lanes, barrier, 6 lanes. In Virginia and Maryland are the same, right? When you cross the road, you're in Maryland, next to Washington, D.C. Well, I want y'all to know that it took me 4.5 hours to get across 12 lanes of road. 4.5 hours. You don't know what traffic is. You think Atlanta's something? Atlanta's not got anything on Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., right where everybody commutes out of Washington, D.C. and into Washington, D.C., back and forth into Virginia. Atlanta's not got anything on them. I got there just in time to open up my joint. He was getting worried about where I was at. Well, I made it, but hair about chin. But can you imagine crossing 6 lanes of traffic, trying to get there from 8 o'clock in the morning and get over there by noon? It took me 4.5 hours to get to that fairgrounds from the other side of 12 lanes of road. 6 going and 6 coming. So I have had my experience with interstates. I've got some more about the interstates too, and that has to do with making music and having blowouts on buses and all that stuff. That's way further down the line. But anyway, we went back into Virginia, we did our shows in Virginia and everything. I had my good times with the girls and everything, went swimming again, so forth and so on. So summer was about to be over. It was in August going into September. And we was going to be back home in 1st of October, so I'm going to skip us on down into, because I don't remember much about in between, but I'm going to put us in, I believe it's Hampton Roads, Virginia, or it might not have been Hampton Road, but I can tell you this, it was Fort Bragg, North Carolina is where it was. That's where it was. We had been to the other place in Virginia, Hampton Roads. We did a show in Hampton Roads at a naval base, but that was on the way up. But now we're back and we're going to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, biggest Army base in the United States. That's where the money's at. We getting there on time. They're going to have money for at least 10 days. They know that. We pull in there. And by the way, this Carnival, these people that run these joints and help set these joints up and everything, besides myself, they were coming and going. They'd get all, they'd make 2 or 3 nights, steal what they could steal, and they'd leave. And a new batch would come in. My boss knew who was going to steal, who wasn't going to steal. He knew them all. He walked up and down there keeping an eye on them. Didn't make no difference. If they stole half what he got, he still made a ton of money. So these guys were coming and going all the time, all the way up there and all the way back. Like I said, they're liars and they're thieves, they're crooks. That's their living. That's what they do for a living. If y'all think y'all ever seen a pea pod thing where you put something under a Coca-Cola cap and all that stuff, you ain't seen nothing. I've seen it all. So we get into Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and we get set up. We set up everything we got because that's our last gig for the summer. We got that dude all set up there with everything clicking. He gives me my own joint, another joint. He gives somebody else a joint I've been running. He gives me this other joint where you pitch the ball up in the net. It rolls down and it rolls into a colored hole. There's a hole about that big, and the little volleyball, whatever hole it lands in, whatever color that is, all the way around that thing's a big board about 14 inches wide and got all the colors painted on it. Well, if that ball lands in blue and you got blue and you got 10 quarters on it, it might pay 10 to 1. That means you'd get 10 to 1 of the amount of quarters you had back if it went into your hole. Well, the trick to that thing is its odds are against you because there's 25 or 30 people playing it. And that ball, it's just totally luck where that ball lands. That's one thing, I can tell you the truth. That's totally luck where it lands. But that game is played off of percentages. They won't play that game if 3 or 4 people are playing it. They'll play it when there's 25 or 30 playing it. That's when they play it. And so I got that joint for the Fort Bragg, North Carolina deal. At this point, I've just about wound up on number 10. This is episode number 10. I'm going to pick up in Fort Bragg, North Carolina on our first night there and pick up on a few more joints that I'll tell you about. Like one of them's got a mouse. They've actually got a live mouse. They let out of a shoebox and he runs in a certain hole with a certain color. So we'll pick up there on episode number 11. Right now, I'm going to close out number 10. Going to close out number 10, and we're going to play you a couple of pretty tunes. We always try to play a couple of tunes at the end of the show, so we're going to try to do that for you right now. We'll pick up on episode number 11, and we'll talk about mice going in holes and more throwing the volleyball in the net, and Fort Bragg, North Carolina, being the last show on the Carnival, and a little more about what I learned on the Carnival. So at this point, we're going to just kick back, get our instruments out, pick you a couple of songs, okay? Everybody just hang on. We'll get it together. Thank you. Be right back. All right. Welcome to episode 10. We're going to hope you enjoyed number 9 and hope you'll enjoy number 10. Episode number 10. We're going to do a couple of songs for you now. And first one I'm going to do is Give Me My Flowers While I'm Living in the Key of F, okay? In this world today, while we're living, some folks say the worst of us they can. But when we are dead in our casket, there'll always slip some lilies in your hand. Won't you give me my flowers while I'm living, and let me enjoy them while I can? Please don't wait till I'm ready to be buried, and then slip some lilies in my hand. In this world is where we need our flowers, a kind word to help us get along. You can't give me my flowers while I'm living, then please don't throw them when I'm gone. Won't you give me my flowers while I'm living, and let me enjoy them while I can? Please don't wait till I'm ready to be buried, and then slip some lilies in my hand. Please don't wait till I'm ready to be buried, and then slip some lilies in my hand. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. Give me my flowers while I'm living. Now we're going to get ready to do your real pretty one. That's Uncloudy Day, right?
Yes.
Uncloudy Day in a B flat. Let's lay it on them, all right?
Okay. Oh, they tell me of a home far beyond the skies. Oh, they tell me of a home far away. Oh, they tell me of a home where no storm clouds rise. Oh, they tell me of an uncloudy day. Oh, the land of cloudless skies. Oh, the land of an uncloudy sky. Oh, they tell me of a home where no storm clouds rise. Oh, they tell me of an uncloudy day. Oh, they tell me of a home where my friends have gone. Oh, they tell me of a land far away, where the tree of life in eternal bloom sheds its fragrance in the uncloudy day. Oh, the land of cloudless days. Oh, the land of an uncloudy sky. Oh, they tell me of a home where no storm clouds rise. Oh, they tell me of an uncloudy day. Oh, they tell me of an uncloudy day.
All right. Good job, Ready? Uncloudy Day. Appreciate that. Hope you enjoyed number 10 there. And what we're going to do after number 10, I believe episode number 10, we're going to start this doing this once a week, which will be on a Sunday night after this week. And episode number 11 will be on the following Sunday. So from now on, after this coming Sunday, we'll be doing one episode a week instead of two. We'll do them on a Sunday night, 7 o'clock. So be watching for us. We'll see you on episode number 11, okay? Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Jesus died on the cross from a dogwood tree. He gave his life and soul just for you and me. The dogwood was never to grow strong and tall again, for the blood shed that day was on the wood from a dogwood tree.